guys, I have a brand new recipe for you this week, and this has been requested a ton of times ever since I posted a picture of it a couple of weeks ago. And it is Sabudana Vada, which are like tapioca pearl fritters with some potato in there, and they are golden and crispy and so delicious. We've been making this recipe in my home the same way for years and years. My mom used to make them when she would fast when I was younger, and now we just make them as a tea time snack. They are just super good and really easy to make actually. They have no onions and no garlic. They can be made gluten-free and they're vegan, so they're really adaptable for anyone who has a special diet. My recipe uses mostly store cupboard ingredients, so you don't have to go out and buy anything special. If there is an ingredient that you're missing, then let me know at the end of the story, and I will try to answer as many questions as I can and just offer some substitutes so you guys don't have to go out shopping, because it's not something that we want to be doing at this moment in time. And let's be honest, who doesn't love anything that's a potato and a carb and fried? And because we're all social distancing at the moment, that means we've got some extra time to just indulge in those things that we wouldn't usually make. So just enjoy this, try it for yourself, and let me know how you liked it. I'd love to see any of your recipe remakes. Now here are all the ingredients that we're going to need to make our Sabudana Vada, and as you can see, it's a very simple, straightforward recipe using mostly store cupboard ingredients. So let me just explain to you what I've got in front of me here. So of course the most important ingredient of all for Sabudana Vada is the sabudana, which in English is called tapioca, and these are these little tapioca pearls, and you can buy them dried from any Indian shop, and these are the medium size version. You can get them in all kinds of sizes. They come in small, medium and a larger version. These are the medium ones and they require very little soaking, so I'll show you how to do that in just a second, but these are the most important ingredient for the Sabudana Vada. In addition to the tapioca, we're also going to need some mashed potato. Now, these are potatoes that I've just taken and microwaved. So I like to cook my potatoes in the microwave because it's easy, it's quick, and it's relatively clean. I don't have a ton of washing up to do afterwards. So all I did was took my whole potatoes, about 4 large potatoes for this recipe, and I washed them and just pricked them all over with a fork and put them in the microwave for about 12 minutes, and that just made sure that they were cooked all the way through. Then I just let them cool down a minute, and when they were cool enough to handle, I just peeled the skins off and mashed them while they were still warm, and that ensures that we don't have like a ton of lumps in our potatoes, because we want this mixture to be relatively smooth. Now, if you don't want to microwave your potatoes, that's completely fine. You can steam them in a steaming basket, or you can bake them in the oven. One thing that I wouldn't recommend for this recipe is boiling them in a ton of water, because if you think back to our aloo paratha recipe where I explained that when you boil potatoes in water, they do take on some of that water, and we want this mixture to be relatively dry so that these vadas hold together when you form them into the iconic kind of vada patty shape. Moving on to our masalas, I'll just quickly run through all of these with you. So we have, first and foremost, some chilies. I'm using a mixture of green and red here, just because I had them in the fridge and they are a lovely colour when they're put together. You can use any fresh chilies, or even just chili powder if you don't have fresh chili. And we're going to need quite a lot of that, because if you think of these ingredients, the potatoes and the sabudana, they are very bland, so we need a ton of flavour going on here, even if we're just relying on basic ingredients to achieve that, so lots of chili. I also have some freshly grated ginger here. If you don't have fresh, you can use the frozen kind of ginger, or the kind in a jar if that's what you have. This is really forgiving and versatile, so just use what you have. We also have some ground peanuts here. These are just dry roasted peanuts, which I have ground in my pestle and mortar, and they're coarsely ground, as you can see. So we don't want like a ton of big bits coming into these vada. We just want it to be kind of like a background flavor, and it adds a lovely kind of savoriness to this dish. Next up, I have some cumin seeds here, and these cumin seeds were whole cumin seeds, and what I did was I just dry roasted them in a frying pan until they were nice and aromatic, and then I've transferred them to my pestle and mortar and just ground them up so that they are like a little bit finer, and that just transforms the flavor of any kind of cumin. It just makes it really earthy and aromatic and gives it that gorgeous kind of hearty flavor that we love about cumin seeds. And then very quickly we have some ground black pepper, that's just coarsely ground black pepper, some salt, some sugar and some baking powder, and that is what's going to make these sabudana vada really nice and light, because if you think about these ingredients, they're pretty stodgy, so we need something to lighten the mixture up so that it is really nice to eat, really puffy and delicious. And I promise you, just adding a tiny bit of baking powder like this will transform your sabudana vada game. And then of course no sabudana vada recipe is complete without some fresh coriander leaves and some lemon juice. Now I didn't have any fresh lemons because I haven't been shopping in a while, so I'm using bottled lemon juice here, and that is absolutely fine. Just use whatever you have, don't go out and buy special ingredients for this. Now finally here I have some potato starch, and this is going to help bind this mixture together. If you don't have potato starch in the cupboard, that's absolutely fine. You can replace it with some instant mashed potato. And I know you guys are going to be thinking, what, real cooks don't have instant mashed potato in the cupboard? Let me tell you, real Indian cooks do have instant mashed potato in the cupboard because it is so versatile. You can use it from everything from vada and like batata vada and samosas to adding to your potato curries to give it that kind of dry finish. And I promise you, have a bag of instant mash in your cupboard at all times because you never know when it's going to come in handy. It is truly a versatile ingredient. Today we're using this potato starch, but the instant mash works just as well. My tapioca pearls are now in this bowl, and I've just added a bit of cold water, and I'm just going to give them a really quick wash. We don't want to wash away all of the starch in this because that's what's going to help bind these vadas together. We just want to give them a quick wash just to remove any kind of surface dirt on there, and then I'll just drain this, and we need to leave these to soak. Okay, my sabudana are now washed. I'm just going to now add some boiling hot water, and adding boiling water is going to prevent the need for us to soak this for a really long time. It's just going to make the whole process really quick. So I'm going to leave this. I'm not going to mix it around. Don't mix it around because that's going to kind of encourage some of that starch to be released from the tapioca, and it's already very delicate. So just leave it as it is in the bowl for 10 minutes and it should be perfectly fine to use after that. I've transferred my mashed potato to this large bowl now. This is just a large mixing bowl, and to this I'm going to start adding the rest of my ingredients. So I will first start with the ginger, and that ginger goes in there, and my chilies. Everything goes in, okay? We're not going to be precious about this, just dump everything in. I've got my jeera, my dry roasted jeera or cumin seeds, and the crushed black pepper. It's already looking really colourful. Those chilies are like a little ray of sunshine in there. I'm going to add my ground peanuts, my dry roasted peanuts, and they're going to add a ton of flavour to this. And then my sugar will go in, and all of the salt, and finally the baking powder, and that's it for all of those kind of masalas that we went through at the beginning of the video. And then once these are in, we need to go ahead and add our lovely fresh coriander. And you might think, whoa, that's a lot of fresh coriander. Trust me, these are gonna need it. They're gonna be so delicious and just so light and fresh with all of that coriander and this lemon juice. And then finally our potato starch goes in. And now this all needs a really good mix. Now everything is in the bowl together. I'm just gonna take a spoon. You can also use your hands. I'll probably end up using my hands in a minute anyway because they are the best tool. I'm just gonna incorporate all of this so that it's really well mixed together. Just get all of that mixed up so that there's no pockets of like potato in there. You want all of that masala to kind of be well distributed in that potato mixture. Now I'm getting frustrated with my spoon, so I'm gonna go in with clean hands and kind of just fold it together. And it might seem a little bit sticky, don't worry, just keep going. That potato starch will start to absorb into all of that potato mixture. You don't want any kind of pockets of dry flour in here. So I drained my sabudana from the hot water just into a little sieve like this, and as soon as I drained it, I just washed it under the cold tap just to remove some of that excess heat and to stop that cooking process. And as you can see, they are quite sticky, and that's a good thing. We're not making sabudana in khichdi where we want these tapioca pearls to remain separate. We want them to be quite sticky so that they hold together in this fritter or this vada. So let me just show you the texture. You should be able to take one in your fingers and kind of smush it a little bit, but for it to still hold its shape like that. Let me just show you. You can see there it's still kind of sticky, and that's a good thing because we want to be able to see those visible pearls in these vadas. So this is the kind of texture that it needs to be for them. So my potato mixture is really nicely mixed. I'm just gonna go ahead and add in all of my soaked sabudana to this. And again, I'm gonna go in with my hands and very gently kind of mix to incorporate. And this is why we don't add it right at the beginning of the process. We want to get those potatoes and those masalas combined first and then just fold these in, because we want these pearls to remain kind of intact, because that's what's going to give them their gorgeous kind of bubbly bhajia kind of look on the surface, and it's going to look so pretty. And that's why we don't cook the sabudana too much either. We don't want them to overcook. We want them to have their lovely round shape that's going to be visible once we fried these. So just go in and very gently fold them in with your hands. It's very therapeutic. So we're going to start rolling our vada with our hands, and the way to do that is to take some water. This is just regular cold water in a bowl, and wet your hands, and that is what's going to help you really get these nice and smooth so that they don't stick to your hands either. So these are nice and wet, and now I'm going to take an ice cream scoop, and the ice cream scoop will allow us to get the portions of these exactly the same. So just level it off like that at the side of your bowl and pop it into your wet hand. And now we just roll it very gently between our palms like that, and then just flatten it very slightly. And we want the edges to be nice and flat so that we have nice surface area, so that these vadas are lovely and crispy on the edges and a little bit puffy on the inside. So let's just finish this one off, and as you can see, that is looking perfect and lovely. So let's just pop it onto our tray. So I'll just show you that one more time. I'm going to wet my hands again and then take my trusty ice cream scoop, which is going to help me get those perfectly even portions so that all my vadas are the same size, and then just pop it onto my hand, roll, 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 roll between your wet hands, and that is not going to stick to your hands at all. Give it a gentle press, and then you have your perfect Sabudana Vada. And then again, just pop it onto a lined tray, and we are going to repeat this for all of our vadas. Our Sabudana Vada are now rolled out into the iconic kind of patty shape, and we are now ready to fry these. So I'm going to heat some oil up and get that going, but I wanted to say as well, if you don't want to cook these immediately, you can cover them with some cling film and leave them in the fridge for up to 24 hours. By which time you will need to fry them. But if that's something that you don't want to do and you want to make these ahead and store them for an even later time, then what you can do is get them to this stage and then semi-fry them so that they are golden all over and cooked through, and then you can pop them into a freezer bag or a Tupperware that's safe for the freezer and keep them for up to 3 months. I'm ready to cook these now, and we don't need to set them in the fridge or anything, so these are all ready. I'm going to go and heat my oil up and then pop these into the oil and cook them all the way through. And as you can see, the surfaces are so pretty with those lovely sabudana bubbling up there, and the lovely kind of colourful chilies and coriander in there. These are going to be so lovely and fresh. So I've got enough oil for deep frying in my pan here, and I've just heated it up. It's over a really low heat. I'll just show you, like super low. That's as low as this heat is gonna go. And we want to make sure that this is just a nice temperature for frying at a low heat, so that these vadas cook all the way through. We don't want them to kind of brown quickly on the outside and then remain raw in the middle. We want all of that sabudana to cook really nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and very carefully add a couple of vadas in at a time, and we don't want to overcrowd this pan, so just depending on the size of your pan, do just a couple at a time so that they are really kind of cooking at an even rate. These have been frying for about 4 minutes now, and they are still over that low heat. We are just cooking them very slowly, and don't worry about them absorbing a ton of oil and all of that over a low heat. They really do need to be cooked over the low heat so that they are cooked all the way through and not just browning on the outside. It's really important, and that is going to ensure they have a really nice crisp outside. And they are turning super lovely and golden now. And I can't wait to eat these with my coconut chutney. It's going to be so delicious, and you guys are going to love them. And your friends and family are going to be like, what? You made those? And you can say, yeah, I'm a pro. And these are almost done now. I'm going to lift them out of this oil. So I'm just lifting these out of my oil now, and as you can see, they are perfectly golden. They've got that bubbly texture on the surface and they look fab. So let's just rinse and drain as much of that oil off as we can and pop it onto a plate that's just lined with some kitchen paper, and that is going to absorb any of that excess oil. There we go, these are perfect. And I'm going to repeat this for all of my vadas. This is my second batch now ready and fried. I'm loving the golden colour on these, so I'm just going to lift them out. Drain some of that oil away and then transfer them to my lined plate and continue all of this frying. My vadas are now cooked and ready, and as you can see, they have that gorgeous golden crispy exterior on the top, and they are going to be perfect served with my coconut chutney. If you want that recipe, then let me know and I will do a separate video on that. And I hope you enjoy these vadas. They're so delicious, and your family are going to be like, why didn't you make more? Because they're so Moorish and so addictive. I hope you love them. And very quickly, I just want to show you the inside of these vada. As you can see, they are really lovely and soft inside and crunchy on the outside. They're so perfect.